Xenoblade X can be a hard game, especially early on. When you keep losing to the same enemy over and over, it might feel like you're missing something. Which could very well be the case when the game tries to teach you this many mechanics. So, here is a video that explains every battle mechanic as simply as possible, while giving you some tips along the way. Just a disclaimer, I'm not covering overdrive or scale combat in this video, since you only get to use them in later chapters. When you lock onto an enemy with the L or R button, the battle menu will appear. Here you can choose arts with the D-pad and use them with the A button. And if you want to stop fighting at any point, you can simply press the B button. When you stand close enough to an enemy, your character will start auto-attacking. These auto attacks are weak, but they do give you TP, which stands for tension points. In the beginning, you can only use TP for two things. You can use 3000 points to revive a fallen party member, but the main thing you'll use it for are TP arts. You'll need 1000 tension points to even use these arts, because they're just that good. But do keep in mind that some normal arts will also give you TP under certain conditions. Be on the lookout for those arts, because constantly raising your TP to use your best attacks becomes a big part of mastering the combat later in the game. Normally, your arts go on a cooldown right after you've used them, so in the early game, fights can be hard because you just can't do much. But thankfully, quick cooldowns got added in Xenoblade X Definitive Edition. If you press Y on an art you've already used, you can skip the cooldown and use it again. At the beginning of every battle, you can use the quick cooldown 4 times, which is shown by the green bar in the bottom right. The things you can do with this mechanic are insane. For example, you can use a topple art multiple times in a row to make sure that the enemy stays down for longer. Here is my favorite way to use quick cooldowns in the beginning of the game. Find the strongest art you have on one of your characters, upgrade it as many times as you can, and then just use that art 5 times in a row to defeat almost any regular enemy around your level. There are some battles against groups of enemies early on in the story, and these can be tough. But they become so much easier when you take down the lower leveled enemies first, because this means there are less guys shooting at you, and the quick cooldowns let you do this very easily. Throughout the game, you can upgrade the green bar with energy clips, which are rewards for exploring. This way you'll eventually get even more uses out of quick cooldowns. But moving on, if you press X during battles, your character will switch between using their melee weapon and their ranged weapon to auto attack. You can switch after every auto attack to get TP faster, but the weapon you're auto attacking with also influences another mechanic, namely the secondary cooldown of your arts. When an art is ready to use, you can see a yellow line slowly go around the border of its icon. When that yellow line made its whole way around, that art has completed its secondary cooldown and it will be upgraded in some way. Some arts will get stronger, while other arts can be used a second time, which is good because secondary cooldowns are shorter than normal ones. Arts that use your melee weapon will only charge their secondary cooldown if you're auto-attacking with your melee weapon, and the same goes for ranged arts and ranged weapons. Now, here's an important note: if you press the Y button on arts that are ready to use, they will immediately get their secondary cooldown effects. So you can skip the waiting process altogether for a few arts per battle. Something that I like to do is to use all of my buffs while I'm waiting for my strongest art to charge its secondary cooldown and to then let it rip when I'm all set up. Sometimes your party members will ask you to use specific kinds of arts. This request is a soul voice. If you use an art of the same color that your friend asked for, you will both get some healing and you will get a bonus effect depending on what the character was saying. For example, if a soul voice says use a ranged attack to topple the enemy, then your next yellow attack will, in fact, topple the enemy, even if the original art does not have that effect. These soul voices have a chance to appear after specific conditions for each character. You can check those conditions in the menus. Now, don't worry, you don't need to know the conditions for every soul voice to play this game. Looking through the soul voice list with your current party can just give you a better idea of how you can trigger them and what effects they will give you. You can actually customize the soul voices from the main character you created at the beginning. You can choose what bonus effects you'll get for triggering all of them, and for the last 4 voices, you can even choose what conditions you need to trigger. Now, if you, the player, activated a condition for your own soul voice, there is a chance to get a quicktime event. Your character will only call out your soul voice if you hit the B button in time. If your timing was perfect, your character will even get more TP. For every quicktime event you successfully completed, the morale level also increases. And the higher your morale is, the higher the chances of soul voices triggering for your whole team, and the more TP you'll get after hitting future quicktime events. Now, this next mechanic will give you a ton of advantages while you have to do almost nothing. Enemy appendages. You can see the enemy's health bars on 2 different places, on top of the screen and on the enemies themselves. Well, sometimes you can see an extra orange bar on the enemy as well, and that is the HP of one of the enemy's appendages. By holding the R button and pressing A or Y, you can target different parts of the enemy's body, and you always want to check if you can target an appendage. If you destroy one of those body parts, the enemy won't be able to use certain attacks anymore and their defense will be lowered. You'll even get extra materials after the battle ends. If this sounds too hard to keep track of on top of everything else, remember that you can target appendages before the battle even starts. Always go after these for a chance of extra damage and some loot. Now, with the gameplay mechanics covered, I quickly want to talk about your stats. First of all, did you know that there are 7 stats that determine your defense in this game? Yeah, and the funniest part about this is that the actual defense stat is the least important out of all of these. To determine how much damage you will take, the game first takes the enemy's attack and subtracts your defense from it. So, if you have, let's say, 100 defense, but the enemy has an attack that can do 1000 damage, you'll still lose 900 HP. A lot of enemies have ridiculously strong attacks in this game. The higher your defense is, the better of course, but you will have a bigger advantage when you focus on your resistance stats. Both your party members and every enemy can do 6 types of damage in this game. Physical, thermal, beam, electric, ether, and gravity. Your resistances to these 6 attributes are applied as percentages. So, a 50% physical resistance will decrease all physical damage by 50%. That means that if you get a resistance to 100, you will just be immune to that kind of damage. Of course, it's hard to get every single attribute to a high number, but think of it like this. The game does tell you which of these 6 attributes every enemy attack has. So, if you're stuck on a boss, try to see which attributes its attacks have. If you're taking a lot of damage from, for example, thermal attacks, see if you have some equipment with higher thermal resistance. Maybe you were wearing something that gives you negative thermal resistance, which means you'll take even more damage from those attacks than usual. And to quickly mention the evasion stat, it's not worth investing in too much. Even with the highest possible evasion, enemies will still have a 5% chance to hit you. And believe me, you will not get that highest possible evasion for a long time anyway, so it's even more luck based. There are even some arts that give you guaranteed evasion or invincibility, which makes the evasion stat even more obsolete once you know what you're doing. Getting more evasion can be a nice bonus alongside some other stats, but you should not focus on it. Finally, there are the 3 stats that determine your damage output. Attack is for your melee arts, and ranged attack is for your ranged arts of course, but then there is also potential. This stat determines the damage for all of your TP arts. Early on you will rely on all 3 of these stats, but eventually I try to focus on increasing one of those stats specifically. Make a build that's focused on melee damage, ranged damage, or on potential to one-shot everything with TP arts. All of these can be viable. Finally, I just want to say, don't forget that there are augments that you can equip on your weapons and your equipment, because I did not know about them when I first played the game. To equip augments, go to the ground gear menu and press ZL on a weapon or gear with an empty slot. And to craft augments, simply go to this shop in the armory alley. And to finish off this video, I just want to announce that I now have a Discord server themed all around Xenoblade. If you have any questions about the game, me and some other people would be more than happy to help you out. Feel free to join if you want some help on your playthrough, if you want some people to test the multiplayer with, or if you just like talking about the series. Anyways, thanks for watching this video, subscribe for more. This has been Maxmonado signing out.